Primetime Live is back. I'm Isabelle and tonight we discuss an actual fact that there is a digital divide in developing countries when it comes to gender and ICT. Where Rwanda has been hailed in recent months by the African Union for putting women at the forefront. But when it comes to ICT, despite the fact that we have at least 54% of women in the workforce, we have only 20% accounted for as professionals in ICT. Tonight I'm joined by ladies who have decided to major in this area to help me shine a light on some of the issues that come up when it comes to ICT. And with me is Esther Nkunda, who is from Intel Corporation and Girls in ICT. Welcome to Primetime Live.
Thank you.
I also have with me Aline, who is from Girls in ICT and Rwanda Online. All right, and Muganga Mariam, who is from Academic Bridge, Rwanda. Ladies, Rwanda has done an impeccable job when it comes to empowering women, and it's been evident in some of the initiatives. We have Girls in ICT, we have Miss Geek, we have all of these things that we've done. But when it comes to translating into job opportunities, we're still seeing 20%. Why is that? I'll start with you, Esther. What do you think is missing?
I believe when we see this is a real problem and this is a worldwide problem, it's not only in Rwanda, that we see that there's this gender divide in ICT. One of the biggest problem is women have traditionally are not known to be to go into STEM fields, but I think it's something that is changing and that we are actually trying to work towards reducing that gap. And I think as Rwanda, we've started somewhere very, very low in terms of women that were in STEM fields, science, technology, and mathematics fields. And what I believe is we're going towards the right way. So we started very late in getting women into catching up. So we have to work hard to actually now catch up.
I'm going to bring in Aline here. She says that we're doing a great job, but we need to catch up because we started late. Do you think that that might be the reason that despite the fact that we're doing all of these things, we're not getting the results that we need?
Well, first of all, Isabelle, thank you for having us on this show. I think it's a very important discussion, and to have this platform to be able to discuss these ideas is great. Well, touching on what Esther just said, first of all, it's not a Rwandan problem. It's a global issue. Mm-hmm. And in Rwanda, I would actually say that the numbers do look better than the number of countries in the world. So
I just positioned ourselves to be at the forefront, so the pressure and the expectations
is even higher.
Even higher, yeah.
I do agree. So part of the challenge is also in the professional world. So there's a number of questions. First of all, how many women come out of the STEM fields from the educational system? That's the first issue, and the societal attitudes that tend to cause women to go into other fields. So even though we are more in universities, at least in undergraduate courses, there's not as many coming out in the STEM field. So that's the first problem right
Mariam, I want you to chip in here. Well, there's a mindset that ICT is for men. And that's the stereotype. It's something that most of the countries intend to empower the boys more, push them towards that direction more. Do you think that could be the issue even with us?
No, I don't think so. I think regarding on the previous talks from different people, and I think girls are being pushed now to study ICT and also be much involved in ICT, and it's quite changing. And I mean, the challenges mostly were because girls were fearing somehow, and this cultural way of girls not being involved in tech. Not just ICT, but...
When you say fearing, what exactly do you mean?
They think the ICT and all, the ICT generally is for boys because they're the one that can handle big stuff or even hard stuff mostly. And that's why I pushed the girls not to join ICT. But now with with everyone talking about it, on the TVs, the First Lady herself. So she was always like mentioning about girls, inspiring girls to join and study ICT as well.
Now that you talk about inspiring girls to join, I am very interested in why the three of you decided to major in ICT. I'll start with you, Esther. You could have been a nurse, a doctor, a sit-at-home wife.
Probably I could have been one of those things, but I was very lucky to, my parents, I was born in a family where both my parents were working. So, and the background of my family, some of them are teachers, so every time you have a teacher in the family, mathematics is a very big part of what a child needs to know, right? So I believe having both my parents working and actually excelling in whatever they were working on, science was emphasized as something that is really something to pursue if you like it. So then I went into computer science because I had done math physics. If I could confess, I didn't exactly know when I was still in high school.
So for you, it wasn't so much I want to be at the forefront of showing other girls we can do this. It was just that, science is something you could do.
It was mathematics, and it was I had done math and physics in high school, so it was actually something that I could do, and I thought I could excel at it. So that's what I did it.
Aline, what's the story? That's the story here.
I want to say there's a very interesting story, but
okay.
I loved math, I loved physics, and the field that sort of seemed to fall within that path was engineering. However, I actually think this is key because I wish more girls would get career guidance. There's a lot of brilliant girls who, and this should start not at S6, but it should start before, so they know that they can actually go into this. They can take these paths into technology, because technology is fun. I landed here, but I love what I'm doing. So I really wish more girls could get exposed, know a number of options that are out there for them, but also be able to select technology, because technology is fun. It's creativity.
So if you love math, you need to go for it. I mean, there's no limits to what you can do. All right, let's go to you, Mariam.
Yeah, thanks,
Why?
Isabelle. Well, I have so many brothers. And most of them, we're almost the same age. I mean, I'll say we follow up. I have around 8 brothers, and all love, you know how boys like to play with TVs, fixing TV, fixing radio, or actually breaking them. So anyway, being raised with so many brothers, actually I was exposed so easily, exposed so early with playing with TV, fixing all those, playing with DVD and all that with them. And that actually, I felt like it's something actually I wanted to do. And I was so good at it. I was so good at fixing stuff when I was little. And anyway, in my high school, I also did math and physics and computer science. So actually, in my S4, I was really I was able to program in C. Okay, I'm not sure if you understand that, but I was really programming C, C++, and all those languages.
She looks like I'm not getting anything you're saying here.
Definitely.
No, I get it, but I was not able at that age.
That's too early.
I was new at that.
What would be the normal age to be able to program?
No, it's great she was able to have that opportunity, but I was exposed in my first year of university to the programming language that she's referring
Something
to.
she did about 8 years before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's just dig right in. What are we doing to make sure that ICT is accessible to all the women that would love to be in that field? What do you think can be done? Because I know a lot has been done, but clearly there's something missing. What do you think can be done different at the moment to make it more accessible?
I wouldn't say that's something different, but I would say something to add on the current initiatives that are ongoing. So one of the things that I've seen that is really, really impactful, especially that impacts young girls, is having role models. This means high schools or even primary schools.
Did you have one growing up?
I would say I was lucky to go in a school and I'm going to point it out, Fawe Girls School, which was founded by most of the prominent women that were in big positions here. Some of them are doctors, lawyers, and we actually could see them in front of us saying, these are the things that I'm a doctor, I've been doing this for so many years, I'm a lawyer, I'm doing this. So we saw successful women while we were in high school. But it was because they founded the school, right? They were part of the women that founded the school. But so career guidance, having role models, and also introducing technology at a very young age. When she started coding when she was in senior 4, but primary school kids should be able to know what programming is. We should be able to have there's something they call makers or robotics clubs around, so that people can see that there's technology around what it can do.
We have Caleb and some of these open spaces where children can be able to. But Mariam, in your opinion, do you think that this is something that can improve the statistics and actually translate if we introduce that at an early stage?
Yeah, I think actually, was it on Saturday, I attend this event. This Africa Code Week, and this Africa Code Week is introducing like they're getting these little young kids and teaching them how to code at a really young age, and I think that's already a progress. That's a really good progress of involving more girls in ICT. It's not basically just it's not just girls, but I think it's just all the kids, which is great. And being exposed at an early age, I think, the young girls will grow up feeling confident in ICT and already knowing how to code or even develop some applications if they.
The question still stands: 7 million women in the workforce, and yet we have less than 30% able to get jobs at the end of the day. We have ICT, of course, exposed to children at a younger stage. Now we're seeing that happen, and we can do more. But what is going wrong, in your opinion, Aline?
So this is tied to what I was pointing out in my first point, which is the pool of women available to fill those slots is already small, because there's not that many women entering the STEM fields in the first place. So even if there's more women in the workforce, there's a very small group that's actually coming out from a STEM education. And I'll give you my perspective as being in the private sector and in the technology space. Even when you put out, job adverts, the number of women that apply is really marginal compared to the number of men.
What is going wrong? Because the statistics do indicate that we have enough girls going to schools. A huge percentage, and a huge percentage graduating. We actually have, to be exact, 53?
Yes, 54%, yeah. So that 53 coming out of university, but how many are coming out with technology degrees? I don't have the statistics, but from what I see, it's pretty small.
If we
so
are
you have all these lawyers and all these
again, I'm going to bring you in here because I need that to make sense.
Yes.
We're introducing the girls to ICT. We're enabling the women and giving them opportunities who are graduating with degrees in ICT. And then we don't have graduates.
So let me build on what Aline was saying. We have great statistics of young women that actually go into university and actually do sciences, do computer science, or they go into electrical engineering, any of those fields. But then when they get out, you also see a gap of how many women would opt to go and look for a job in those particular fields where they
career
started.
Change?
It's not career. At first, I won't say it's career change, because one of the things is there's also a gap between what the private sector or the job market really needs, the kind of skills that they need, and the kind of skills that we were getting out of the education, right? Like, when I graduate, am I ready to actually work on the first day? And
so is that the quality of education they are getting is not to the standard of what the jobs require?
Actually, if I may add, the thing is, the knowledge you get from school, it's not enough. That's the thing. I mean, you have to be exposed to other like ICT, be involved in ICT like competitions, or let's say girls in ICT. Actually, that's what actually makes people learn. I'm sure actually that's what made you like be involved in ICT really after.
So you need to, after you graduate, you need to be exposed to all of these things before you can actually be good enough to apply for a job and get it.
I think before that.
If I can intervene, and I keep making this point because I think it's really relevant to this conversation. The key is to get more women in university to do
take up
STEM, because the issues that are being highlighted
but even
affect
the ones
guys
that are
as
graduating
well.
actually not getting the jobs.
Yes, because when you're already a smaller group that's coming out, by the way, it affects guys as
well. If we
can
take care of the group that is already coming out with ICT and they can get actual jobs, I think that it's only natural that then people will be drawn towards taking up courses in that direction.
So I think what you can say is I think we've also had here in Rwanda we've had a conversation where they say that the people that are coming out of university are not right for the current market, job market, right? I think we've had that conversation along the way.
And what is being done about that?
So let me just add on one point. So then if you have few women that are in STEM fields, right? And then when they get on the market, they're not up to the standards that the market wants them to be, then it means that fewer of them are actually going to stay the course, because it's going to require them much, much more than what for them to actually get a job in that industry. So the right way is to have the private sector, the education sector, come together and say, okay, this is the right skills that we want, and this is how we want to get to have our graduates, which all affects boys and girls at the same time, and then have all of them work together so that we can bridge that gap. And then from there, we also work, because there's so many initiatives that we're getting more women into STEM fields. Then if they get that, they get the right skills, then they'll be ready for the job market.
All right. Now remember, you can join the conversation on Twitter at Isabelle Masozera or at RBA Rwanda. We are trying to find out what the missing link is. The girls are being empowered, exposed to ICT, and yet we don't have enough graduates coming out as professionals in ICT. Well, you can join the conversation. Leave us a comment, leave us a question, and be part of the dialogue. All right, now let's move on. I do have a couple of questions that are coming through from our Twitter page, and this is Eunice Uwembabazi, who is saying the struggle to alter the stereotype held by many that ICT is a man's field is fierce. Are we doing something to do enough sensitization to enable girls think otherwise?
I believe we are, and
what are some of these things we're doing?
Yeah, I'm coming to that. I think it's a journey. So Rwanda is also just taking on a new journey as a country for economic development, and we have seen a lot of support starting from the president himself, trying not only to get women empowered in this country, but to get more of the youth in technology. So this is inclusion for all. Men and girls. But there's a number of initiatives. Girls in ICT has a very strong partnership with Imbuto Foundation, with RDB, with the Ministry of Youth and ICT, who are always ready to support us, to go out and do mentoring programs, to do Miss Geek, as you mentioned. That's only one. I know there's a number of initiatives within campuses. There's Tech Kobga, which is done by the Peace Corps and a number of universities from the US, as well as IBM, actually. So there's efforts, and it's a journey. We're not there yet, by no means, but there's definitely a lot of, political will, political support, and just grassroots efforts from a number of individuals who are looking to spark change and to see that change.
Now, Mariam, even though ICT comes off very manly, what can we do? What can be done to make it look friendly to women, to make it more appealing to the girls, for them to feel like this is the cool thing, this is the in thing? Are there some of those off-head ideas that you think could be useful in this case?
Right. Yeah, tough one. But anyway, I think more ideas actually that could help girls join ICT. I think it's better if girls actually get involved in. Anyway, for my story, how actually even though I did computer science while I was still in high school, and also in university, I didn't really know much until actually I started joining this competition that was held that Ministry of Youth and ICT organized, and this African Innovation Prize. Actually, that's how I got to understand exactly what it means to be in ICT. Well, in school, I'd say, I mean, they'll teach you how to do things, but then after joining that, actually, I learned that actually this is how it's done, and this could be a real career. This could be it could turn into a real business.
Something good.
Exactly, something good. So I always tell some young girls that don't sit at home and say, okay, I'm just so young. I mean, try to find someone you can volunteer, or try to find someone that can mentor you, and it's free. I mean, there's no cost to that. Or take some courses online as well. And it's always fun because we always use, I mean, technology has become part of us. So you know, everyone is like busy using all these apps, and actually that's the same technology we're talking about.
So you don't think there's a different way it can be packaged to attract the
I think so, because I think technology work is creative work.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think is an issue that I also find myself when I'm talking to girls falling into the trap sometimes is making it about technology. But you find there's a girl who wants to help do this, or there's a girl who likes design or whatever. Technology can allow you to do all those things. And so maybe one thing is in the universities, and this I was exposed to this myself, is rather than bringing in technology, code, that's introduction to programming, and just seeing the course name, you don't even want to be part of that course. Yeah. Make it, it's your creative solutions to different problems. Go in there and use technology to solve different things. And as an engineer, I started seeing these interesting things later. But I imagine all the girls, when we started, I didn't go to school in Rwanda for my university, but when we started, 40% were girls in the first year. By the time we graduated, we were maybe 8%.
Would you say you have an advantage having studied from abroad over a girl who graduates from Rwanda today?
That's a loaded question, Isabelle.
She mentioned earlier we're not meeting the standards.
Yes.
So
that's a tricky question because I don't use my technical skills. I've not used my technical skills since I came back to Rwanda. So in that way, I would like to say no. Because if I was competing with today, if I was on the job market, a girl who has had the same number of years of experience as me, but in the technical field is way more experienced than I am. But I think the conversation would be more rounded, because what else comes other than your technical education? It's, the communication skills. There's more around it than just the coding.
Very wise of answering
loaded
that.
question.
But let's move on. We don't have enough women occupying policy making positions. Yeah, we have women in ICT, and they're filling up a lot of spaces, but we don't have them in key positions. What could be the problem? Are we not aggressive enough? We are growing up in the generation where we have Oprah saying, "Go girl, you can make it," and we've been empowered all round.
In Rwanda, though, are you saying policymakers in Rwanda?
All across.
No, Rwanda is completely different.
I think policymakers, that's a different.
So you believe that we have enough women occupying policy-making slots when it comes to ICT as a sector?
I think
the permanent secretaries.
Yeah, we have the director of ICT. I think our DB ICT has some permanent. But for me, what I would say is, in terms of government, I think we have a good representation of women. But now the problem would now be in.
We're talking. Let's zero down to ICT as a sector.
ICT as a sector, I think. I don't know, but in terms of policy.
And again, I quote in an article that was recently published in the New Times that did spell out that we don't have enough women occupying key
positions. In policy positions.
So the need to empower women to be able to occupy those places. You seem to all disagree.
I beg to differ on that one.
So you feel we are very well represented when it comes to ICT?
From a policy standpoint, yes. But from an industry standpoint, absolutely not. And if we even extend the conversation...
But you cannot separate the two.
You can actually, because representation is there. And I mean, there's efforts.
Representation will then translate and have a direct impact on the industry.
With time. It's a journey, like I said. I mean, it cannot be, it will not happen in 2 years. But there's certainly a very big policy push from the ministry, from RDB, from the president.
All right, Aline, hold that thought, ladies. We'll be back. We need to take a short break. Thank you so much for joining Primetime Live. We're still with you, and the conversation is around women in ICT. Don't go away.
Advertising on our TV increases your business dramatically. Do you know that we are leading? With new equipment, fully digital, our TV will even boost you with greater impact. When linked with us, your visitors become customers and our TV is ready to increase your business up to 60%. Presenters like myself become your sales force, interacting with your customers and convey your message in a dynamic way. What makes our TV different? Simple. We are covering the whole nation. We are fully digital, and on top of that, we are already on satellite. If flagged on our hub, here's what you get. Squeeze back on our programs, log pressment on our show, live streaming on our website, log display scores on our program, countdown as news opener, plus free motion graphics as 3-day promo for your product. Let RTV increase your sales. Call us today on
What are we doing to ensure we're building capacity for women to become more aggressive and take up key positions when it comes to ICT, flourish and grow into their own? It is still Primetime Live, and I'm with Esther, Mariam, and Aline. Well, before we went for a short break, the conversation was around whether or not we have enough women representing when it comes to policy making positions. And your answer was yes, government. And then you said the industry can be separated. But again, it lingers in my head that it can't. When it comes to small businesses, if you're having 1 out of 5 men, 1 woman taking up a key position, it has an effect at the end of the day. And I still see you disagree. Let's hear you.
So like I was saying before the commercial break, from a policy standpoint, and let's build this from down, right? From bottom up. Policy standpoint, there is women representation, and not just representation, women and men working together to ensure that there's inclusion, gender inclusion in ICTs. Now, when you get into into industry, it's a different story, and it ties to the graduates that are coming out of university. I know this from the corporate world. When you advertise a job, the number of women that apply versus the guys is very low, and it's a transparent. Program. There's no quotas. There's none of that, and we know this, and we recognize that it's very hard to find enough good women in ICTs. Not because the companies don't want to, but there's just a gap there. There's a divide.
But then there's a difference when it comes to government. But how come the government is able to find these women? What is different? If the company is advertising and they can't find women in ICT, but the government can't be able to find the women to occupy these positions.
To be fair, the government is not hiring engineers in policy positions. That's one. And there's a lot of women that come out, 54%, 53% from
The jobs
universities.
in ICT, not everyone needs to be an engineer. There are other jobs.
So I am coming. So when it comes to policies to drive this change, you have to start from the bottom, which is education. And I know the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of ICT are emphasizing
I'll come
this.
back to you on that. Mariam, what are your thoughts on this? Do you concur?
I think she has a very good point that it starts from education. But anyway, here's what I would like to say. Imagine a guy and a girl coming to fix a bug in your computer. And if a guy shows up, you'll be like, oh, okay. I mean, he'll do it, it's fine. But imagine if a girl just shows up. You'd be like, okay, you just stand there and be like, okay, let me see, exactly, let me see if you can fix it. No, I mean, actually, normally that's how actually normally it is. I mean, I'm trying to be honest here.
What has been your experience when you walk up to someone and you say, you are an engineer, right? And you are as well. What is the reaction when you come?
It's mixed. I mean, I think there's times people are surprised and there's times people are good. Let me give you an example. At work, I genuinely don't remember that I'm a woman at work. And I work in a technology company.
But you're a lot of women, so it is evident that you are a woman.
And yet here I am not remembering that I'm a woman because there is no sort of gender,
Esther, I want you to come in on this one. What have been some of the challenges you have experienced in this particular field, being a woman in a man's world?
I wouldn't say I've personally experienced anything that that will overtly say that someone is really surprised to see me in that position. But it's quite something when you go into an event or go into a meeting and then you find you're the only person, you're the only woman, that is around.
Do you get the side eye of, does she even know what she's doing? Do you ever get the feeling that people think you just can't do the job just because you're a woman?
I would say everyone has to prove themselves, but the first time you enter in a boardroom, everyone is like, who is that person? Can they do that? Until you open your mouth and then prove yourself. Then,
exactly.
Then that is really it's still something that you can fail. But also it's something that you learn, that you actually have to assert the first day you get into a job, the first day you have to make sure that you know your first impression has to be right.
Do you ever feel like you need to do more just because you're a woman?
No. At this point, and this is my personal experience, but I wouldn't say this is everyone's experience, because this is my own experience, and I would believe, and this is why we are also doing this, a lot of other women actually have to do more than what they should be doing in order to advance in their career and go on.
You look like you want to add something. Yeah. Has it been the same for you? It's all smooth and actually, you don't have to struggle.
Yeah, actually having a woman like in a great position, I think it's a competitive advantage to companies, if I may add to that. So I think companies actually should look into hiring more women, because if it's a woman running something and they prove that actually they can, it's like everyone is like products them, you know, they're these products, and then actually, and if they and you can actually determine that if like you can differentiate a pink and a black, let's say, screwdriver. I mean you can tell one catches
Mariam, what you're telling me,
one catches the
Mariam
eye
and
more.
Esther are telling me that it's a very leveled ground in Rwanda, and it's a very leveled ground. Everywhere you've gone, you've never had to feel like, oh, I'm a woman, I need to do a little more.
I don't think that's what
No,
we're saying,
actually.
Isabelle. So
No.
Let me just it's like
Okay.
what we're saying is, and this is very different. The reason why we do all these things is because so many women have to prove themselves that they're up to the task.
So you do acknowledge that maybe others have to.
It's not maybe. That happens. But in my personal experience, and it hasn't yet happened to me yet. But, and I hope it doesn't. But I know a lot of women have had to go through all that, because you hear many stories of women who should be, they're in a company and they should be promoted, but someone else gets promoted instead of them.
Okay.
Right? And that's not a unique story. And that's why this is this drive to get
All right,
women.
let's move to something slightly more sensitive now. ICT is a very powerful tool that can be used, and of course as women you want to highlight some of the injustices women face and some of these open spaces that can be created for women in ICT to just experience one another's stories and then share about these things. Are we utilizing this platform in that direction in any way?
I believe we are, at least as I will use the example of girls in ICT. First and foremost, we're trying to advocate for more girls to join the technology fields, but we also, use that as a network, a support system to be able to share experiences and to see how we can improve and grow and be better and provide more value in our homes and at work. I want to just add on what they were saying. I think when it becomes harder, the higher the woman goes in a company. There is definitely truth that it's probably hard at all levels. Maybe also hard for guys as well, but women have different challenges. But the higher you go, then it does seem, because you're also, the number is shrinking.
What is that one experience that you can pick on and say, okay, I found this a little bit out of the ordinary and difficult for me, being a woman in that environment?
In that environment?
Yes.
Actually, I've been fortunate like they have. Yeah. I've really worked with people who not only are, encouraging colleagues and supervisors and bosses, but they're also encouraging, and then they allow me to grow and they allow me to really flourish. I'll use your word. But I have been in situations where, and this is out of my work, where people question, if I know what I'm talking about. And I particularly remember one, which this was not actually work related, it was just in a social setting, and I was being questioned about something that I did my graduate thesis on with a guy who never, and then he says, if you were an engineer, you would know what I'm talking about. And then I say, yeah, because I'm an engineer and I have a thesis in exactly what you're talking about. So in fact, you don't even know what you're talking about. But I don't think he would have said that, to be honest, to a guy. I could be wrong, but I don't think he would have said that to a guy. I think he just looked at me and decided.
And how did that affect you? How did you handle that? Because I will assume that you all have experienced this, even though you're telling me otherwise, at one point or the other. So how do you handle yourself in a situation like that? Because I know there's a lady home who is definitely going through something like that, and they need to know how to handle the pressure when it comes on in that direction.
One of the things that I do is surround myself with a good support network. But there's also, you just have to, first of all, once you've gone through engineering school, by the time you come out, you're
the skin is tougher.
For so many reasons. But then you also have to begin to grow your self-confidence. And it doesn't always come naturally, to be honest. I think there's times when that comes at you, you may shrink, But with time, you have to learn how to get up.
All right. Now, of course, all of this talks comes back to empowerment of women at the end of the day. How does that translate in your private lives? Do you ever feel like maybe the men that approach you feel a little more intimidated when you carry all these, big titles, engineer, and does that happen to you?
No, I don't think so. Well, I think when men maybe approach me, we put it in your own words. I think they think if they see a lady in ICT and they'll say you're very smart and you have guts, something like that, and I think they'll appreciate you. I think that's.
Has that been the same for the two of you, or has it been a bit of a challenge? You find yourself you have to tone down on the tech talk just to sort of feel like the weaker.
I think if a guy is intimidated, then you.
So you've not faced that at any point. You've not faced that at any point.
I mean, to be honest, I don't pay attention. I guess I'm not. Maybe I should pay more attention. But I genuinely believe if a guy is intimidated, then why are you even spending time trying to tone down? Just move on.
Again, the question comes in because the school of thought that, you know, some of these manly jobs do not help women, and they make women come off too empowered and too strong, and therefore, you know, girls seem to go for the softer subject.
But you know, Isabelle, there's a lot of empowered, strong men out there who are not intimidated by titles or by engineers. And I think we're more, you know, better off spending time with talking to those guys than the ones who are intimidated. Because actually there's a lot. Yeah. And I hope actually the next time we have a women in ICT discussion, we have men, because there's a lot of men supporters. Yeah, there's so many. No, there's a lot of men supporters, there's a lot of men. I have a lot of men mentors, guys who are really supporting to make sure that more women get into into ICT.
All right, now we have a few more questions coming in, and earlier we had Penny Mutesi, who says that how can we improve the current situation when it comes to pay for women in ICT to make it more attractive? Oh. A question that should be going to somebody in a more policy-making position. But yeah, do you think that maybe if this was done as an incentive, it would have a positive impact on how many, you know, are choosing to go in that direction if women in ICT were earning a lot better than they earn today?
Okay, so I think I could ask two questions. So there's 2 points there. There's one, if there's one is she saying that women should be paid a lot more to actually be encouraged to, or as an equal pay point?
No, I think the question is looking into how women can be paid more than the men to make ICT more attractive.
I don't think that's a right strategy. No. Why? Because then they're going to do the same job. We expect the same thing from them. So I don't think. But the right question will be, do we have equal pay in those positions? Like if two people, if a man and a woman are in the same position,
would they earn the same?
Are they earning the same for the same job? That is one conversation, and I really can't answer on that because I don't think we have data, especially in Rwanda, in terms of how many, like, especially in the industry, how women and men are paid.
So is ICT a well-paying direction for girls to opt?
That depends.
I think ICT is a well-paying, generally. But look at Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is where it has some of the highest salary medians in the world, and yet they have a very small number of women still. So I don't know that
that would have
would have the impact, because actually, just using the US, they have the same issue, and yet with those good salaries, women still don't pursue technology.
So then do you think that we have any hope of changing that? We have the government doing its part. Yeah, they're pumping a lot of resources in making sure that, you know, the girls are exposed to this information and they're given a leveled ground. Yeah, but what is it? Is it viable? Is it the right thing to do if we are still seated here and saying that the girls are not graduating in that field?
It is worth something to actually pursue, because for me, what I think is technology is one of the things that is going to help our country and any other country in the world develop faster. Everything is going to be based on technology. Healthcare is going into technology. Education is going towards technology. Construction is already technology. So everything is almost is being given a backbone of technology. So it's a worthy cause to actually pursue. And one other thing is, we've always said that women are the heart of the household. In this case, the nation. So it means that the more women are involved in technology, the more we design products, the more they get into, women actually participate in developing this technology and using this technology, then we'll have a better society and we have an advance.
Would it in any way make any sense to any of you. If you woke up one day and were in university and ICT was compulsory that particular year for those that are enrolling for women?
Programming would be great, actually. Yeah.
Is it different? Yeah.
You think that would be great?
So programming, it's different things, but technology. But so you mean every faculty has a technology side on it?
Well, you could opt for that to be that way. But either way, a way to introduce this early or make it mandatory in order for, because if we are pumping in all these resources, it has to translate to actual revenue, tangible results at the end of the day, not people coming out of university and you have graduated with a degree in ICT and you're getting into fashion business.
I think that's
You should marry.
You can marry fashion.
Again, if somebody has invested in you from when you're in primary school to when you're in secondary school, university pumping all this information in you, it costs. There is a cost to it. And then you come out and you are going to become a bartender because should we be investing in men instead? Because they seem to be taking up.
I think it's also about passion. It's something you have to be passionate about. But talking about ICT being introduced at a young age, I work closely with schools because that's what that's what we do. And already like students or people in primary and nursery, they're already like learning how to do some small things on a computer. I think when I was in primary, or even I think all my primary, I've probably never touched a computer, and now they're like 5 years or 4 years old, and they're already like coloring on computer and doing. I think that's the best way to start.
Could the devil be in the communication strategy, the sensitization strategy, and how we're branding ICT at the moment?
I may be overthinking this, but I think there's way more that's involved because also one has to recognize what is the infrastructure when we get out of Kigali or maybe in the most remote parts of the country. What is the infrastructure? And that when we begin to talk about that, then it's not even only girls. We're talking about boys and girls as well. And when we talk about technology, there's definitely a gap, I think, in terms of the level of skills, but even the numbers. If we're going to become the tech hub that we have envisioned ourselves to be, we're going to need a really good workforce of girls and guys in the technology field. So I think there's so many layers. There's education, there's infrastructure, there's society and the societal attitudes, there's digital literacy, there's literacy. So these are many things, and I genuinely believe the government is doing a lot. It's a journey. I don't think we are there yet, but there's so much going on. And you know what? The more we have more, when drones come, people see how cool drones are.
Yes.
Then they will
medical drones flying.
Yeah, medical drones, and who knows what's next? Maybe we'll have some other interesting stuff.
It's always great. I mean, Rwanda, we don't have actually any like mineral resources. I think the only resources we have is just people, even men and women. And I think with ICT, the only reason as to why the Rwanda even government tries to emphasize people to join ICT is because when you're trying to start a business in ICT, you don't need much capital. I'll tell you that because that's how we started. We started adding a few calls from here and there, and then you start commercializing your idea, and then there you can start making money from zero money. And then I think that's why everyone actually, mostly girls, should actually try to get to be involved in ICT, because it doesn't cost you anything at the beginning, but it might end up being something very good.
Yes.
That's if they have the access to the phone,
the
the laptop, the
internet. But it's Caleb. I mean, Caleb is providing all that.
Caleb is for the modern part, the person in the city, the person in Kigali. But then we are talking about somebody in Nyagatare, someone that is out of the city, and a young girl that is interested in this, or a woman that is hungry to get into that. Do we have certain spaces that are out of the city to cater for that?
Well, I'll tell you what. Do you guys all know Gashora Girls Academy? And they're getting all the. I mean, they're good. I mean, they're smart girls, and they're getting them from anywhere. It doesn't matter if you can afford to be in school or not, but they just pick you because you're really passionate about, and it's about ICT or even science in general. And they just you go to school and they'll provide for you. They'll provide for you everything, and you'll be exposed to the computers and internet. And
so they bring the lessons to the girls in their villages?
No, they just bring them.
They bring them to But again, that brings me back to, okay, the access seems to be limited to Kigali and slightly out of Kigali. But what about the ones that are in the village?
Also, I believe one of the things is using education, basically school system, because that's where most of our girls are. Yes. And it's a good avenue to get that technology in the schools, get them to participate in everything that is there. Basically, creating like small clubs, and we have
in different
schools, and we have Center of Excellences. Yes. So these are schools that are good in sciences and they're across the country. So why don't we empower these schools to get them to actually now add technology as something that is on top of, it becomes science and technology, Center of Excellence in Science and Technology. And yes, so that is small steps. Getting in the school, the education is the right pipeline to get all these things.
But that is again a more long-term solution.
Well,
you want short to mid-term?
Yeah. So actually, there's this post-TiVo computers that they're being distributed in all schools. By 2019, if I'm not wrong, the students will be able to do national exams on their computers. So I mean, to be able to do that, I think you need to start now. So that they've already started distributing computers to the students, and they're buying them. They're paying them in a long term. There's some sponsors who can buy for some students. I think that's also a good step. If a student is already, and those computers are being distributed everywhere in the country, in Gatari, wherever you're mentioning, and it means even those students you think they're far, they're also being actually thought about, and they'll also be able to use technology.
I want to add to that. The teachers also need to get the relevant training to be able to have students that come out who are really good. Because one of the things that I've been privileged to be part of the Tech Kobga camps, more from the sidelines, but one of the challenges is finding teachers that actually are digitally literate. And so that's also a very huge investment and effort that needs to be done, because I think students generally are curious and will go and learn a lot, but imagine how much bigger the impact would be if you also have teachers who are able to do that.
But that's also there. post-TiVo started with teachers, one laptop per teacher, and they're not just providing them computers.
They're training
them as well. Training with
they're giving them training, and then actually they can be able to teach using the computers. Otherwise, you can't give a computer a child, and the teacher actually can't be able to use it.
Ladies, well, unfortunately, we're out of time, and this is a question, again, that we need to find a solution to. Maybe not today, but at least now we acknowledge that there's a problem, and baby steps, maybe we can be able to address that situation. I thank you so much for coming out and taking off some time.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's all we had for you this week on Primetime Live. Now, with at least 120,000 jobs created annually for people in ICT, and predicted that, well, we'll have a chasm for 90,000 seats that would be available for women and every other person that is interested in ICT. How do we make sure that women get to loop into that? Well, the government has done its part, but you and I can contribute in one way or the other. Isabelle Masozera is my name. I'll catch you again next week. Keep it RTV.